going to hand you over to someone who's going to deliver a brilliant talk and get out of
you.
your way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Inge. I'm going to talk to you about the 4 types of content your data is telling you to make. So I'm very much a get your pens out, get your phones out kind of person when I do talks. I haven't got any more slides. It's just me and the piece of paper that you've got. I own 3 companies. The parent company is called Clue, because no one has a clue how to do their social media. But my whole plan over the next, I've got 6 years remaining, is to democratise social media and leave it in a better place than I found it. So I've owned my own company since I was 17. I set up Clue 2 years ago off the back of 7 years of consultancy in social. I got to a point where I was like, social media is awful. Like, it really is. Even if you're in social, anyone in social? Marketing? Yeah. It's just awful. It just takes so much time, so many resources. Like, it can be great fun. You're doing cool TikTok trends, but especially, when you're working with clients, they are expecting a good return on investment. When I'm consulting with people, I'm telling people over and over again, to make your content. And nobody ever does, because it takes so long, it takes a lot of resources. You look and compare yourself to companies like Stephen Bartlett, who is spending a good 250 grand a year just on content creation. So you can't compete with that. So I set up Clue to stop telling people what to do and start doing it for them. So the first arm of the company is Clue Content. It's a content creation house. We make 3 months of content in 3 days for the same price as one person's salary. So it's fractional content creation. So, you get a bit of time, videographer, photographer, graphic designer, copywriter, strategist, and we generate 3 months in 3 days. So 1 day of planning, 2 days of filming, and then we deliver it monthly so we can stay on top of trends and things. The second arm is launching next week, Clue Labs, which is the underbelly of everything. That is a machine learning tech piece of software, which don't go into software development if you're not technical, because I've been working on developing this out for 2 years. It's equity backed, but we're launching it next week. It analyzes all of your data. So the thing about social media is there is so much data, and we never bother to look at it properly. Even the experts, even the people that spend time in it, we do our best. A good few hours, maybe a day of looking at our data, what it means, but there's so much of it coming from lots of different platforms, lots of different things, and so it's impossible. So the technology that I've built pulls it all in. We have multiple machine learning memory agents that analyze your data and then tells you exactly what to post off the back of it, based upon 4 KPIs, which we're going to follow today. Is anyone familiar with the buyer's journey in marketing? Yeah, cool. It's like 100 years old. It's basically where you take someone from a total stranger all the way through to someone who has bought from you, and then beyond that sort of recommends you and takes you on you take the buyer on a journey from not knowing you exist to spending lots of money with you and telling all your friends. Social media is really good for this. And social media, as businesses, we all know we have to do it. And we all know that it works, but we don't understand always why it works or what to do to make it better. The amount of people that say to me, I just want 10,000 followers. I'm like, well, that's okay, but why? And what's the point of that for your company? So we really have to think about what we want out of social media at different times and different points of our company journey. You might want, when you're starting, so Clue Labs is launching next week. I want conversion next week. I want that bottom of the funnel. We've got a picture here in your worksheet. It's a little funnel like this. You get lots of awareness at the top, so strangers in the clouds, and then you attract them into your funnel at the top, which is all of the awareness, and then right at the bottom is conversion, so someone taking an action with you. On social media, this looks like someone clicking your link, so navigating to your website, making showing really high signs of interest, or if you have shops set up on your socials, purchasing something off, like TikTok shop, so actually converting into something. But it's a journey to go, and you wouldn't, there'll be people that you've bought off of Instagram, TikTok, you might have seen something on LinkedIn and then you've made a purchasing decision. you haven't thought about that, but you have gone through a journey of awareness to interest to consideration to conversion. And you can manipulate this on social media if you know what you're doing. So last year, we made nearly 10,000 pieces of content for our clients inside of Clue, and we analyse all of those pieces of content and what they do. At certain times, people are interested in awareness, so really just knowing you exist. When you launch a company, you just want people to know that you exist. Or at times, if you're thinking about, if you're a product-based company and you've got Christmas coming up, probably October, you want to be focusing on awareness. So you want people to know you exist. And then throughout October, November, December, you go through awareness, so people know you exist. Interest, so people have shown they've liked or viewed your things. Then you go into consideration, which is where they follow you. So actively saying, I like what you do. And then conversion right before Christmas because you want to sell those products. So there's a full process which we're going to go through today. I've already done the hard work. So I've already analysed all the content. I already know what works for different types of things. And we're going to think about how these can relate to our own companies and come up with some content ideas for ourselves. So the first thing, just to know as standard, obviously next week you can buy my technology and it will tell you exactly what to make for each stage of this journey, but there are some rules. If you want, and it's on your sheet, reach and engagement, so awareness, top of funnel, people to know you exist, entertaining content is best. This doesn't mean you have to do TikTok dances, but if that's your vibe, they do work really, really well. TikTok's a really great awareness platform because of the way that it's set up. But entertaining content can mean just sort of beautiful lifestyle content. It can mean sort of just like the way that you video things can be entertaining. The music that you put to things can be entertaining. The cuts that you put into content can be entertaining. So it's sometimes about the way that you create the content, but the style. Just think entertaining. Just think, if my people were in front of me, all of my followers on social media in front of me, what would I be doing to entertain them? So for me, you know, I'm like, I'm Inge, it's like Minge without the M. It's entertaining. It's definitely not any of the other parts of this, but I've captured you in. You're aware that I exist. So some of those kind of like background things, I could tell you all about my background. I could entertain you with a story about my business and what it is and how it's become. So just that entertaining stuff's really good for awareness, but know that entertaining content is not going to make you sales. A lot of people try and do all types of content all at the time. We're going to get to kind of plotting it out for ourselves over the next 3 months. But focusing on entertaining when you want awareness. Don't expect followers from entertainment. Don't expect click-throughs from entertainment. Just expect like reach, impressions, video views, some of that ego-driven, like nice stuff. The next bit, so once people are entertained and they're aware you exist, in order to make them follow you or interact with you, so to pull them down that funnel, to turn them into people that are interested in your company, that are considering your company, you need to educate them. They need to know that there's so many options on social. They need to know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. They need to know that you've done it for other people before. They need to know about what goes into your product and educational contents. For companies, it's actually really, really easy to create. You can just set up a camera. You can, like, I'm educating you now. You know, you could set up a camera. You could just talk about, the staff that you have and their background. You could talk about how your product is made. You could do testimonials. Other people educate them on what other people have said, or do case studies, white papers, that kind of educational stuff. Because education increases trust. The more that I talk to you today, hopefully, the more that you'll trust me. At first, you were kind of entertained. Oh, her name's quite funny. And now maybe you're starting to trust what I say because I'm showing you and talking about, educating about the background, the quantity of content we do, you know, the styles of content, the way the technology works, all that, my length of service in the industry, those kind of things. So once you've educated someone, you then want them to actually start spending money. You don't want, influencers are really, really good at awareness and entertaining and education. So their influencers are normally really, really good at getting loads and loads of followers. They're not always very good at converting those followers. A lot of smaller companies are actually really good at conversion, but they might not have loads and loads of followers. So you might have 500 followers, but you might be making a full-time wage out of those 500 followers, because the bottom of the funnel is all about empathizing and energizing. People who have smaller accounts are much closer to their followers. They understand them more, so you can empathize with them and energize them. Now, there's specifically 2 ways because of different price points. If you are selling something that's more expensive, it might be that, and that's relative to what you're buying. So it might be that you might be selling Nike shoes instead of Primark shoes, or you might be selling a training course that is £5,000 instead of £500. If the price point of what you're selling is higher, you need to energize. People with money, people who are spending a lot of money, people who are higher net worth individuals, people in investment in particular, they like to be energized. They like to be excited about spending money. So if you're selling something that is a little bit more expensive than your competitors, if you watch any, I can send some around actually, if you watch any Nike adverts, when they're selling something that is with brand partnerships, so it might be a little bit more expensive. The trainers might have been like endorsed by some cool NFL player. Because they're a little bit more expensive, the content and the videos are more energizing. They're like, yeah, you can do it, the chase, the chase, the chase. Whereas if they're selling something, or if other companies are selling something a little bit more for lower net worth individuals or a lower price point, you need to empathize. People who have, unfortunately, and I know that it's generalizing, but people who are spending less money need to feel an empathetic relationship with that thing because they don't have as much money to spend. So they need to feel like the person that they're spending with is safe. They need to feel like they get them, they understand them. I understand where you're at. So if you look at McDonald's adverts, where they're selling to, it's a lower net worth product, you know, it's just a Happy Meal, $3.99 or something. If you look at any of their adverts, when they do release adverts, it's all about empathy. So they did a really great one around mental health awareness, and they changed the smiles on the Happy Meals. It makes you want to cry. You like empathize with the product. You empathize with the people in the content. So when you're thinking about that for your businesses, if you are, you know, in what I do, Clue content starts $1,500 a month, whereas the technology is £150 a month. Technology, I will talk more about, I get it. Social media is really hard. We hate it. No one knows what they're doing. Just use my technology instead. I understand you. Whereas when I'm talking about Clue content, it'll be like, oh my God, we could book this amazing place in Fora. We can set up these videos. We can, you know, really elevate your brand. You know, there's a difference in the subtleties, but you really, when you're trying to convert people, especially on social media, when you're competing with a shit ton of video, you really have to think about just those 2 nuances will really change things for you. So I want to take a couple minutes for you to just think in March, April, May, just because it's coming up. You might have already done your social media strategy, but just think macro level in my business, what do I want to achieve in March, April, and May? Now you can sell obviously in your company all the time. You can always be reminding people that you have something for them to buy. But if you were thinking about these 3 months as one for each, when are you going to do entertaining, top of funnel? When are you going to do educational, middle of funnel? And when are you going to do empathizing or energizing, bottom of funnel? What's happening? You know, for a florist, for example, March is all about bottom of funnel because they've got Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. After that, they probably just want to go into awareness, ready for summer, and then maybe starting to get a little bit more engagement in May. So do you want to take a couple minutes to do that, or should I keep going? Now, just as a rule of thumb, just something to remember is it does take 3 months on average for someone to go through that cycle on social media, which is why I've specifically said 3 months. For someone to go from totally not knowing you exist to buying from you, on average. Some people take longer, some people take shorter, depending on their need for the product, but takes around about 3 months. Now, like I said, when you're doing a strategy like this, it doesn't mean that you can't sell your businesses. We need to remind people all the time, and you're not waiting for that one person to go through a neat 3-month cycle and then a neat 3-month cycle. But just, it's much easier for us as companies to think about that year-long process and just dividing it up. So you're not trying to hit all parts of the funnel at all times, get overwhelmed with the content you need to make, and then thinking, oh my God, maybe we'll do a testimonial, maybe we'll do a TikTok trend, maybe we'll tell everyone how much we get it, you know. Yeah, cool. So the next sort of bit, which we won't cover today because I've only got 20 minutes, but on the back of the sheet, I've just popped a little, you can do some spider diagrams of the type, some specific content ideas for yourself about whether it's what you could do to entertain people, what you could do to educate people, what you could do to empathise and energise people. And if you aren't sure, I handily have a content calculator. I thought this through. The first QR code in that, if you're like, I would save this QR code. We have hundreds and hundreds of companies that use it. Basically, you put in your stats from the previous month and your stats from this month, and it tells you where your weakest point is. So even though we might think, and this is what part of the technology does, even though we might think, right, I really want conversions at this point, it might be that actually your top of funnel's really shit. So as much as you try for conversions at the bottom, you're not attracting anyone in, and you haven't been for a while. So you need to understand your data to tell you that actually at the moment, you're really weak at awareness. So you should focus on entertaining content just for a little while. Because over time, you want it to be this really, like on the front, beautiful triangle. Everyone's flowing through, flowing down to you. But what tends to happen is, like I said, with influencers, they have a massive top and a tiny bottom. So they have loads of great awareness. And this is why you should never compare yourself to people with big accounts, because you might think, oh my God, they've got big accounts, they've got so much going. But actually, when you dig into the data, often they're not actually pulling anyone down. People might just be kind of interested. And this is also why you should never do a TikTok trend that has nothing to do with your company. Because if you go viral with something, but it's nothing to do with it, you'll get loads at the top, but you'll find it so hard to pull people through. And then you'll spend a year or two just trying to figure out how to convert these people. You'll end up totally off strategy. So you can have loads at the top, but then at some points, you might have done really well on social, and this does happen with smaller accounts, where actually your conversion's really good, but you get to a point where you've exhausted your followers, and you have a really big bottom, but a tiny top of awareness. So even though it's a little bit, you might find it easier, and often your content reflects what you personally find easier to do. You might find it easier, I find it easier to empathise with people. So I do a lot of empathetic content, but I have to stop myself and think, you know, let's open this up, let's entertain for a bit, let's do some crazy, like I did a crazy ad, let's do that or something. And I really have to sit and think about what my entertaining content will be, because it doesn't come naturally to me. So it's worth jotting down ideas and thinking about each bit. And then if you do have a moment or you're feeling stuck, honestly, just use that. It's just a free, I'll get your email address. It's marketing. But it's a free tool, like people in Unilever even use it to just inform them at different points what's actually happening with their data, because all of it is personal to you. And I'll just close by saying, don't ever listen to loads of gurus. I mean, even me, because everything that happens on social media is personal to you and your accounts. There are some general rules you can follow, but hopefully this has helped you understand that there are 4 types of content, as a rule of thumb, that can actually help you to start getting ROI off of the effort that you're putting on your socials. It's a lot of effort. Any questions?
First off, before we do questions, can we give you a
you.